All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. This afternoon, I want to talk about Matthias Jones, and the latest book I'm doing is The Man in the Glass, about self-reflection and looking and making sure you've done the right thing. But that's not what I want to talk about. That's what I started thinking about, is all the different characters I've got in this series, and it's become quite extensive, and I don't even know if I could just sit here and rattle them off. But they all seem to mesh together and work in a way with that little town up in New Hampshire with the wacky people. They seem to mesh with the normal people. The normal people being Jones, George Strickland. Yes, Matthias, we're normal. And let's see. I guess you could call Hamilton Fletcher kind of a celebrity normal, because he's kind of wacky too. Just, I don't know, I'm going to call him wacky. Hamilton Fletcher, the patriarch of the town of Hamilton, New Hampshire, is definitely wacky. And he's always got a drink in his hand. Very good. Get me some Aunt Lucy. Now, we'll learn as this book goes along what Aunt Lucy, what kind of booze that is and why he drinks it. But the rest of the characters, Hamilton Fletcher can be like the hub of the wheel and interacts with a lot of the characters that are in Matthias Jones. And Jones himself is a normal person, and he's in an abnormal town, that's for damn sure. And you have people like Arnie Doers. Hey, Matthias, I got the answer to your murder. You know, he always comes up with a wacko theory. Sometimes Arnie Doers is right, and in a couple of the books, Jones needs his skills in certain areas, his computer skills, to find out what's going on in one of the cases. Arnie's best friend in the town is Bucky Driscoll. That's right, I'm a A1 number one security cop. And Bucky and Arnie are a pair. Like, if you looked at Laverne and Shirley, I didn't model this after them, but it's the same type of interaction as Lenny and Squiggy. And but Bucky is a lot dumber, and I think Arnie has a propensity to be extremely dumb. And those starting to form the central focus of these characters in the town of Hamilton, New Hampshire. Then you have Wendell. Wendell is the police force is very small. It's not a huge police force, and that's if you start going into that, then you've got a whole encyclopedic rendering of what the police force is in Hamilton. So it's kind of focused on certain people, and Wendell is one of them. Wendell is not a normal person, but he works for Strickland, who is normal. And Wendell, gee, George, you know, he's almost like in Mice and Men, the character going, hey, George. But Wendell is attracted to the female clientele in town, and is always acting goofy and dumb around women that he's trying to date. So that gets to be kind of funny too. And you don't want to put Wendell in charge of anything. And in this particular book that I'm writing now, Wendell is semi in charge because Strickland gets shot in the book and is in the hospital recovering. And but Wendell owes his position to Pinky Harris. Pinky Harris is his uncle and is on the state police, and Pinky Harris comes in to run the state police, comes in to run the town police force while Strickland is in the hospital in this book I'm writing now. But Pinky Harris, of course, is a hard-nosed, uncompromising, no good, yeah, you know what he is. So what? Oh, hi, Pinky. How you doing? Yeah. No, you are a son of a bitch. Okay, goodbye. And he's always threatening to bring people over to the barracks. Pinky is always threatening in that way. You've got ancillary characters that come into town. Jerry St. Clair, whom I've mentioned before. Jerry is the typical over-the-hill, hard-nosed reporter from another era who somehow is in the 21st century, and he's wearing his blue suit and his hat, and he needs to know everything about everything. I'm going to do a page one exclusive on her. You know, he's going to do all these things that are no longer valid. People are reading things on the internet. I mean, you get your phone and you're looking at things. Okay, that's an interesting news item. Da 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 da. It's not a page one exclusive. That's of a bygone era, probably even 100 years ago. So, but that's Jerry is in several of the Matthias Jones coming into town, taking over the paper while Tom McGill, the publisher of the paper, is on vacation. He completely mucks up the investigation that Jones is in. And even referring to Jerry St. Clair can get Jones apoplectic. He goes crazy trying to, and so does everybody else in town there too. Speaking of bygone eras, E-R-R-O-R-S, errors, big errors. Lark didn't win too many football games, and at this advanced stage in life, you'd think that he's having problems with his memory and his judgment, but those problems have followed Lark all the way through his life. And it's nothing new for Lark to be commenting on things that make absolutely no sense. And referring back, like many people do, I know as I grow older, I start reminiscing back on different things. Well, Lark not only reminisces, he brings the person that he's with back to this other era and some of the more wacky characters that have lived and still live in Hamilton, New Hampshire. Lark is divorced. We learn about his first wife and Lark's antics and everything in some of the books, but he has a girlfriend named Florence Nightingale. Flo Nightingale, that's right. And she's not a nurse, but she is a bonehead just like Lark, because Lark drives his car totally recklessly. There are so many accidents and people that have been hurt and maimed and run off the road and property damage and car damage, but yet he still seems to be driving along in each episode of Matthias Jones. But we kind of overlooked that, and he drives a car that's 1970s vintage. Lark doesn't have a name for it, but Jones does. Jones calls it the Brown Bomber, and that's about what it is, because you get in the way of that baby and he can run you down. And in this book, he does that a few times with he runs into a vending machine for the newspaper and sends it flying, and the machine goes down goes up into the air and comes down on LG Bentley's beautiful BMW car. It smashes it to smithereens. So, but again, Lark's back on the road again within a few minutes. Hamilton Fletcher's son, Ham, is a total zero, and he's had some problem in the past that Coco's helped him with. Ham is just useless, and Hamilton Fletcher has taken a real liking to Jones, almost like a son, whereas Coco Stefani has taken a liking to Jones. We do find out what happens to Anthony Stefani down in New York City 5 years ago. But Coco is another one of those characters like the hub of the wheel over in Prince William. And hey, come on over to the club, Jonesy. BB's waiting for you. You know, and the elusive blonde-haired, tight-dressed BB is always after Jones. But Jones, for some reason, doesn't want anything to do with her, but I don't think he wants to get involved with it. I think that's what it is. And neither does he want to get involved with Franny McShane, who is totally in love with Jones, and Jones cannot see it. Everybody keeps telling Jones. Father Gallagher from St. Bart's in Prince William tells Jones, Matthias, that woman really likes you, or Matthias, that woman's in love with you. And Jones, of course, shrugs it off. Oh, Father, she's just a helper with the team, and she's a very good team player. Jones, come on, wake up. Well, he finally does wake up in, I believe it's the Charlie Diaper one, the Life and Times of Charlie Diaper. And speaking of criminals, Mr. Fiore is in a lot of these. Albert Fiore, the quote-unquote crime boss of Boston, makes his office on the 22nd floor of the old John Hancock building in Boston. And Jones, here's the thing. Jones is basically a goody two-shoes, but he gets, especially with Coco's influence, he gets drawn into all this stuff with the mafia and especially in Boston, and crimes that have been committed and people dying, getting shot. Jones just had, especially in this book now, with The Man in the Glass, Jones is right in the thick of it with Fiore and Coco and Uncle Dulio. Now, I'll get to Uncle Dulio in a second, but Fiore is the typical tough guy, but he dresses nicely, and he took away the position of the head of the crime family in Boston from Charlie DePiro, who ends up being Charlie Diaper in one of the books, and they find out what happened to Charlie Diaper. But Fiore is, Coco addresses Fiore as Mr. Fiore. Yeah, I'm here with Mr. Fiore. We're working on stuff. You know, and Fiore just has a regular voice and, yes, calls Matthias Jones Matt. No one else calls Jones Matt. They call him Matthias or Coach or something like that. But Fiore calls him Matt. And in one of the, I think it's the Diaper book, he and Jones, he's after Jones because he thinks Jones is trying to unseat him by going and finding Charlie Diaper. And if he finds Charlie Diaper, aka DePiro, it could be a big shootout for those who want to run the city. And then there's Bruno, the bartender. Thank you, Bruno. Hey, I hear bells. I think the clock's going off in here. We don't even have a clock in this room. What's going on? Ah, tastes good. But Bruno is one of those characters who's an ancillary character who does things for other characters, gets involved in shuffling them somewhere or bringing information, that type of character. And again, Bibi I talked about, and some of these girls, they're dressed like real slinky clothes, and I don't really get into what Coco does with these girls in the Club Max murder. I did strongly intimate, and that was one of the early books, that Coco was running some kind of prostitution ring, but I really backed off of that. I mean, I don't want Coco involved in anything like that. He's not involved in drugs because of his brother Anthony's problem with drugs. So, I mean, these are things that I want the book to stand for. And there are other people who are rats, that's for sure. One thing I should mention about Bucky is his girlfriend is Arnie Dewar's sister. Now, Arnie Dewars has glasses and a big honker nose and talks like this. And now, Evelyn Dewars and Bucky linking up is really an image you don't want to conjure up in your head. But you talk to her on the phone, yeah, what do you want? And carries 2 big bags of cement under each arm when she's walking along delivering something from Dewar's Lumber. They have a competition with Dewar's Lumber. It's kind of a competition, is Jefferson's Hardware. We have Mrs. Jefferson, who's gone out with Lark Larson, and she's just a woman who totally speaks her mind and won't take any guff from anybody. And as a result, her son Courtney is like a little puppy dog being led around. Oh, mother, do you have to speak like that? Oh. And Courtney is based on somebody I know. Mrs. Jefferson, yeah. Arnie, yeah. Bucky, yeah. There was somebody on the road that I used to run into that when I saw that guy and I was trying to write the Jones series, I said, that's Bucky Driscoll. That is Bucky Driscoll. I wish I had taken a picture of the guy. I've described Bucky with the glasses and the paunchy belly and, the way he talks and walks around. But Bucky Driscoll was in, I'd say probably in the late 90s. Bucky Driscoll was a sales rep for another company. That's all I'll say. I don't want to be sued by Bucky. Yeah, I'm going to file a lawsuit. Then there's L.G. Bentley. L.G. Bentley is a genius, of course. I don't know what he's doing in Hamilton, New Hampshire, but he's everybody's lawyer. And whenever anybody gets in trouble, L.G. shows up and it's all over. It's all over. I don't know what he does legally or anything. We just assume that he has access in his brain to all this legal mumbo jumbo, and he's just thinking it out. And yeah, okay, Matthias, I'll help you out. And LG has his office on the second floor of one of the buildings downtown, across from Jones's Colonial on the Common. And who else do we have? We got Ned, who's a ancillary cop, I guess. Hello, Hamilton, this is Ned. Hello. And he's kind of just out there. He's based on somebody that I know or knew, and who was a nice guy, actually. And the guy that Lark is based on is a really nice guy, and not as incompetent as Lark is. I don't think there's anybody as incompetent as Lark Larson. But that's, that runs into, you really run into problems when Lark has to coach the team because something comes up for Jones, and Lark is ruining the offense with his razzle-dazzle plays and all this other nonsense. And a guy that keeps showing up is one of Lark's old players who I believe fell off one of the light poles or something on his head and was never the same again. And his name is Snooky McKenzie, or that could have been Brownie Plimpton. Brownie Plimpton was also another wacko guy, but Brownie Plimpton owns the surf shop down on Shore Road, right near the beach in Hamilton. And Brownie's kind of strange, spastic, yes, and that's just the way it goes in Hamilton. You got these wacky people. And let's see who else we have here. We have the late, great Dorothy Fletcher, who was murdered in upstate New York many years ago, when we find out who did that in one of the books coming up. But let's get back to Uncle Dulio. Dulio is huge. He's absolutely huge. He can eat and eat and eat and never gain weight. He's always got muscles that are steel, and nobody messes with him. I mean, he's in one of the books, he was shot, and he still keeps coming at the guy, and it's just absolutely insane. So Dulio is a great character, but Dulio will take guff from Coco. Hey, Dulio, cut it out. And he'll whack him like this on the hand, and Dulio, the big guy who could probably crush Coco by looking at him, doesn't do anything. He just has some sort of respect for Coco. And Coco's mother's name's Rita. He was married to Johnny Stefani, who makes an appearance in Johnny's Back in Town. Johnny left Anthony and Coco when they were in their teens, and that comes full circle in Johnny's Back in Town. And Rita, it's a typical Italian supper with Dulio just absolutely chowing down every time you see him over there at Mrs. Stefani's house. And then we got Winky. Anytime I need something done, I call Winky. If your car needs to be wrecked, they get the treatment. Right, Winky?
That's right, Coco. Yeah. Do you want me to give him the treatment?
Yeah, give him the treatment. And then Ralphie's towing. Ralphie will tow anywhere. And I think it's Johnny's Back in Town. Something gets wrecked up in New Hampshire, way up in New Hampshire, up the top of New Hampshire. And of course, they call Ralph, and he drives all the way up there to tow the car back. And he's indebted to Coco, and vice versa. And that's just the way it goes. And then there are people who are professors who come and go. There's Professor Dumbbell. Professor Dumbbell is in one of them, and he seems to know everything about everything, but he doesn't know nothing, And then there's Travis, and Travis is quite smart, and I don't know what he's doing in that town. I just don't understand it, So he's there off and on, and I haven't written the book yet, but Travis will be involved in a murder coming up in one of the books. And this Jones this character is pretty good because Stephanie is just a controlling person over Jones. I mean, that's why Jones broke up with her and left for New Hampshire, I think, because she just, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And Jones had just about had it. And I think Coco said to dump her or something like that when he was out in Indiana picking up Jones. There's Indiana. Jones is from Indiana with a New England accent. Pretty good, huh? I'm not going to do anything differently. So. And Aunt May will come in as the series progressed after the death of Hamilton Fletcher. And Aunt May is in the farmhouse where Jones was brought up. His mother passed away when he was very young, and he was brought up by his dad, who was an investigator. And that's where Jones has this inkling to investigate, and is pretty good at it, and very persistent, the way his father was. And in the first book, rest in peace, Bill Jones, Coco and Jones actually go right after the killers of Jones's father in one of the investigations out in the Midwest, out in Ohio, up in Cleveland, and there's all sorts of Union thugs after him, and that's pretty good. And so is Lester Larson. Now, Lester Larson, I've only had him in a couple books. He's just so intense. The way I describe him, he's like 3'6", and it's insane. I think I hear something else. I told you there are no clocks in here, Bruno. Cut the crap. There are females that Jones dates during the time before Franny, and they have their own idiosyncrasies that keep the plot rolling along. And then there's Jones's assistant coach, not the first one. The first one was Carl, and he was an athlete from Florida. The second one is the coach that opposed Jones out in Indiana. When Jones coached high school football, Woozy Williams was one of his opponents. But he manages to get Woozy back as assistant coach, and the deal is closed by Hamilton Fletcher giving Woozy access to some horses and everything else that his family likes. So that worked out well. And Woozy's good to, watch the team, because Jones is forever off on an investigation, and then he comes back and somehow miraculously wins the ball game. So I don't know how that is. But those are just some of the characters that I've been thinking about here this afternoon, and I think I'll have another sip of this. If you notice, Jones always goes in for cranberry juice out of the refrigerator. Cranberry juice? Is that cranberry juice? It is cranberry juice. So that's about it. Those are my ramblings here this afternoon on a Saturday. Obviously, the Jones series is the one that I like the best, in that there's a lot of humor in it, and solving of mysteries, and a whole plethora of characters. I mean, there's no question about that. So I like doing that. So this is Robert P. Fitton signing off. Have a wonderful evening. I know I will. Goodbye.